Rest alone for a second. Okay, so I cut this folded, right? And we did right sides together. So now I'm gonna have my front like that. Yes? But I cut this front side with the breast, okay? The two layers at the same time. Okay, so I wanna make sure that I don't make a seam toward the outside and one in. So what I do is, I'm going to open it because I know the inside is the right side. See that? This one goes this way, this one goes this way. I can't sew both at the same time. So let me give you a little hints. You know, I don't like to use pencil on fabric because it might show, it might bleed or whatever it is. But you can always get a pin and mark where the right side is. So next time when you look at it, this is the right, this is the right, and I have no questions about it. You know, muslin is very tricky because it doesn't have a face. But other fabrics will have a face and you will not have that problem. Okay? So let's pin. So let me ask you this, just as a reminder. You're recording this? Good. All right. So when you pin, do you pin it like this? No? Okay. This is what everybody, actually I'm very happy, the wow comes from me that you guys said no. Because I am not going to stitch on the seam allowance. So you're not going to match the edges. I actually going to stitch at the 1/2 inch seam allowance, seam. So I'm going to place my point like that. Okay? For those of you that have not seen this, you guys have not seen this? You want me to refresh? Okay. So if you match right here on the seam allowance and you stitch it at 1/2 inch, when you open it, it doesn't line up. Okay? But if you line up your seam, not your seam allowance, and that is at 1/2 inch, correct? So when you stitch here at the 1/2 inch, when you open it, why is not lining up? And you're also going to find out that if you don't do this, when you get to the point, you have a lot of fabric left over. Look at how it lines up. Yes? So that's where it should be pinned. Now, your pins should not go along the seam. Your pins should always be perpendicular to the seam, and you always try to catch where you're going to sew. Okay? Because especially on the bust, look at how the bust have a curve out, and then the front has a curve in. So we're gonna need to line these notches up. There's no notch? What happened to the notches? Yeah, but I don't have them all here. Is this the right piece? Yeah, it's the front.
It's right here.
Yeah, it's the front. So this is the waist. I'm going to line up the waist. I always like to do, I don't know about you guys, do you like to eat your piece first and then the rest of your food? Or you eat all your rest of your food and then you sacrifice and eat the piece? Right?
Back and forth.
Back and forth?
Yeah.
Well, that's a little masochist.
Pass the
But
piece.
anyway, I always leave the best for last. Like my friend Whitney Houston used to say. I don't know what she meant because she didn't get there, but anyway. So, see this matches perfect? But that's an easy part because it's actually a very straight line, correct? Here I have the curve of the hip, these notches match. Ooh, pretty. Yep. But then look at what happens here. I have all of this fabric and all of this little fabric. Yes? So I'm going to start pinning, and I'm going to do a little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom, and I'm going to work my way in. And I know, because I made the pattern, and you guys know because you make your pattern, that it should be exactly the right size. So making it fit is on the pinning. Don't blame the fabric that doesn't fit, you have too much, and nah, it's not the fabric's fault. It's on the pinning. Okay? So look at what happens. This part is fairly straight, so I'm gonna go in here first. I went from the waist up, and now I'm starting to work. I was gonna say my breast, but this is not my breast. It's the breast of my dress.
Is this like similar to the book of stitches that we did? Like the curve?
No, not at all. This is more like the
Right.
Princess Seam torso that we did last semester. Actually, it's exactly the same. Except that now we have a dress, and before it was just a torso. So look at what happens here. See that this is flat, but on the bottom it kind of ruffles in. See that? That's the way it should be. Okay? But when you sew, make sure you clear out so this doesn't force you into creating that edge. Okay? Also, when you sew, your edges should be lining up. So when you press it, you sew it at 1/2 inch. When you press it, edge to edge always will be measuring 1 inch. Correct? Don't allow the fabric push you out and then you have not lining up. One side is more than the other, because after you sew it and you press it, then it's not going to be 1/2 inch, it's going to be less. But then you're going to find out that one length is not the same as the other. Okay? So let's stitch this. And you're going to see that the straight part in the bottom is going to be very easy, and this part I'm going to be slow. Okay? So 1/2 inch. I want to see that I'm going to be right on that line that says 1/2 inch. Couple stitches. Reverse couple stitches. That's a weird noise. No, that's okay. What I'm concerned is only this line where the stitching line goes. Whatever happens, ruffles, pleats, or whatever outside of that line, that's not my problem. Okay? So I'm gonna go slowly and making sure that this line is flat and that my edges are matching. So see, it kind of is bending the fabric underneath. I lift it and I make sure that from pin to pin, I don't want to do it a long stretch. I want just to be concerned from pin to pin that this looks flat. So when I get there, it looks flat. If you can grab the fabric because you have no nails, see that I have a folded fabric underneath? I want to make sure that I spread it open. So see, now I don't have one curve on one side and one on the other. it makes it much easier to sew because the two sides, where's that coming from? The two sides are actually having the same shape and curve. And you see how I'm guiding it with my fingers. That's the bobbin. Remember I was saying that it has a weird is I'm gonna overlap my stitch about an inch or so, and that will be just as strong as if I would have reverse. Why do I not want to reverse? Because it might give you a bulk, right?
Is that the same with home machines too, or is that just?
Say again?
Is that the same technique?
For any machine.
Oh, any machine?
Yeah. So like if you're doing the hem of your pants, right? You don't reverse and then reverse at the end. You just keep going around and you overlap it and you cut it. Nothing's gonna come out.
There's no bobbin.
Huh?
I have a golden retriever.
Oh, that's super
Like
sweet.
tall. It's like huge.
I call Walter the manipulator. He gets his way. But they're very smart.
Yeah,
As a wig. Okay, so look at what happened here. See how I keep pushing the other two fabrics? See, the seams are clean. I don't have any curve, any pinch, right? And it gives the bust. Now, this is the part that I wanted to show you. When we are going to be pressing this, and this is similar to what we did with the inner curve, right? We are getting something bigger. This is a bigger circle that is going to be pressed open. So see how it's creating ruffles? So you're going to cut little triangles, right? So rule of thumb, if it's an outer curve, you cut triangles. But if it is an inner curve, look at, you're getting a smaller circle and you're flipping it into a bigger one. See how it's tensing? So this side, I'm just going to snip. I'm going now. Okay? And that's going to open it up. The other side, I'm going to do triangles. Where would I do this again? I would do it on the actual waist because the waist has a very sharp curve. If I press it, it's going to be pulling. So I'm going to snip right in there.
How do you overlock after you snip it? Or do you not?
You
don't overlock?
do only the seam allowance. So let me go press it.